In Harmony Creek, some things never changed. The town woke up slowly, bathed in golden sunlight, and the same familiar faces greeted each other on their morning walks. Every morning, Arthur sat on the bench at the bus stop on Elm Street, thermos in hand, leather-bound book on his lap. He arrived just as the first rays of sun touched the pavement, always choosing the same spot, as if it belonged to him alone. He never boarded a bus, just watched the road, waiting for something, or someone. His eyes would scan the horizon, searching for a sign, a face, or perhaps a memory that might return. The townspeople called him the Watcher on the bench, spinning stories about who he was and what he waited for. His presence became a quiet legend, woven into the fabric of daily life. Some said he was a retired professor, others a heartbroken widower. A few believed he was waiting for a long-lost friend, or perhaps a family member who never returned. Children dared each other to approach, but his quiet presence kept them at bay. They whispered stories about secret messages and hidden treasures, but none dared interrupt his ritual. Arthur didn't mind the whispers. His routine was his sanctuary, a gentle shield against the noise of the world. He poured tea, opened his book, and watched the world pass by. The simple acts brought him comfort, a sense of order in a world that was always changing. For 20 years he'd been there, through snow, sun, and changing times. Seasons shifted, children grew up, but Arthur remained, a constant in the town's story. Everyone knew he was waiting, but no one knew for whom. The mystery lingered, drawing curious glances and quiet respect from all who passed. The secret was his alone, as tightly held as his morning thermos. And so, each day, Arthur watched and waited, content in the quiet company of his memories. One Monday morning, Leo missed his bus, something that rarely happened in his small, sleepy town. The street was quiet, the air still, and the world seemed to pause for a moment as he stood alone at the empty stop, unsure of what to do next. With nowhere else to go, Leo wandered over to a nearby bench, the one where Arthur always sat, lost in his own thoughts. Hesitant, Leo asked, "Is this seat taken?" His voice was soft, almost uncertain, as if he was intruding on something sacred. Arthur smiled gently, his eyes kind. "The bench is for everyone, son," he replied, patting the empty space beside him. Leo sat down, feeling awkward at first. He fiddled with his phone, but soon put it away, drawn by Arthur's quiet, comforting presence and the peacefulness of the morning. He watched Arthur stare down the long, empty road, a mix of hope and sadness flickering in his eyes, as if he was waiting for something or someone important. Unable to resist his curiosity, Leo finally asked, "Waiting for someone?" His words broke the silence, gentle but sincere. Arthur paused, then nodded slowly. "Yes, I am," he said, his voice carrying a weight of memories. The simple answer hung in the air, heavy with meaning neither of them could quite explain, filling the space between them with unspoken stories. Leo felt a strange connection to the old man's silent vigil, sensing that there was more to Arthur's story than met the eye. It was the start of a conversation neither expected, a gentle unfolding of trust between two strangers brought together by chance. For the first time in a long while, Arthur felt ready to share his story, and Leo was willing to listen, eager to understand. The bench, once a place of solitude and quiet reflection, became a bridge between two lives, connecting past and present in a single, unexpected moment. And so a new chapter began for both Leo and Arthur, as their unlikely friendship took root on that ordinary morning, forever changing the meaning of the bench they once sat on alone. Leo gently asked, "Have you been waiting long?" His voice was soft, careful not to intrude, but the question lingered in the air between them, heavy with unspoken stories. Arthur sighed, the sound carrying the weight of years. 20 years. This very month. His words seemed to echo, as if the park itself remembered every day he'd spent there. He revealed he wasn't waiting for a bus or a lost love, but for his son Daniel, who had left after a bitter argument that neither of them could forget. The pain of that day had never faded. "I told him not to come back. He listened," Arthur confessed, regret thick in his voice. The memory of those harsh words haunted him, replaying in his mind over and over. Pride kept him from reaching out. Hope kept him coming to the bench. Each day he wondered if Daniel might appear, if forgiveness was still possible after all this time. The bench became his penance, a place to rehearse apologies he never delivered. He imagined the words he'd say, the embrace he longed for, but fear always held him back. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," Arthur said, tears in his eyes. The apology, simple yet profound, was the one thing he wished he could give his son. For 2 decades, he waited for a second chance. Through changing seasons, he returned, hoping that one day Daniel would forgive him, or at least understand. Leo listened, seeing not a mystery, but a father burdened by regret. He realized that sometimes the greatest pain comes from words left unsaid and love left unspoken. The silence between them was heavy, but it was also healing. In that quiet, Arthur found a small measure of peace, knowing someone finally understood his story. Arthur's story, finally spoken, began to lift the weight he'd carried alone. The burden of regret eased, if only a little, by the simple act of sharing. Sometimes, the hardest words are the ones we wait too long to say. But even after 20 years, hope can still find its way back to a lonely bench, and forgiveness can begin with a single conversation. Leo sat quietly, the gravity of Arthur's story settling in. He thought of his own father, and how easily pride could turn into years of silence. Instead of empty comfort, Leo simply stayed, offering his presence. Arthur noticed, gratitude flickering in his eyes. "You listened. Nobody has in a long time." Sharing his story eased Arthur's burden, if only a little. Leo asked, "Do you know where he lives?" Arthur nodded. He had an address and an unsent letter in his book. Leo made a silent promise. He would help Arthur find peace. Sometimes the greatest help is simply being there, and sometimes that's enough to spark hope. "Can I see the letter?" Leo asked. Arthur hesitated, then handed over the yellowed envelope. Leo read the heartfelt apology, a father's plea for forgiveness, ending with, "I wait for you every day." "We have to send this. Today," Leo insisted. Arthur was terrified. Sending the letter meant risking rejection, but also hope. "What if he's waiting too?" Leo asked. Arthur realized his son might be trapped in silence as well. The road ahead seemed less like an ending, more like a beginning. With Leo's encouragement, Arthur found the courage to act. Sometimes hope is just a letter away. The next morning, the bench was empty for the first time in 20 years. Arthur and Leo stood at the post office, letter in hand. With trembling resolve, Arthur mailed his apology. Relief and fear mingled, but a weight lifted. The lesson was simple. Never wait to say what matters. Pride can build walls, but kindness can tear them down. Leo's missed bus became a turning point for both. Whether Daniel replied or not, Arthur found peace in reaching out. Healing began not with a response, but with the courage to try. It's never too late to seek forgiveness, or to offer it.